I'd like to welcome y'all back to another episode of Beyond the Fear podcast, the place where y'all come for motivation, inspiration, uplifting, and an overall positive message. I'm your host, DJ, and today's episode is about being stuck in a place. I was driving with my mom the other day. We were going to just make some groceries, and we were talking. I'm gonna have to start recording that because we be having some very interesting conversations on those trips. But I was just telling her about therapy. She was asking me how therapy was going, and I was just telling her about some of the things that I've been going talking about in therapy, and some of the things we've been going through, some of the things I've been going through, and learning about myself. And one of the things a few months ago, this was around Christmas time, my therapist asked me, do you enjoy Christmas? And I was like, no, not really. And so then, she asked me why. And I was like, because like when I was around 8 years old, I was a very intuitive kid. I paid attention to a lot of things. So one of the things that I paid attention to was my mom, always being in, how can I put it? She was in go mode around Christmas time, just trying to make sure that we could have, and while also trying to make sure that, bills were paid, just trying to take care of all the regular everyday expenses, and then trying to give us the best Christmas. And so, I kind of saw like the stress that was putting on her, and, how it would make her, sometimes cry and things like that. And my mom, she would try to put on that brave face. Nothing's wrong. Everything's good. Everything's okay. But I could tell something was wrong. So naturally for me, it was just like, I just kind of got into that thing. Okay, I don't want anything for Christmas. I don't want anything for my birthday. And so that just kind of became like my thing, because I looked at it like, I need to help her. I need to take some of that stress off of her to, help any way that I can. Which, obviously I couldn't work or anything. So the one thing I could do is be like, well, I don't want anything. I don't need anything. So, that's where my, I won't say dislike, because it ain't like I hate Christmas, but it's just not a big thing for me. So I guess that's where the whole Christmas isn't a big thing for me comes from, is, just trying to help her out, trying to alleviate some of that stress, some of that pressure that she takes on, being a parent, being a single parent. And so so after I finished telling the story, my therapist was like, okay, that I understand that, completely understand that, but why don't you like Christmas? And so I look, and I'm like, I give her a look like, what you mean? I just told you. And so so I go to tell the story again, and she was like, no, what I'm asking is, why don't you right now, the version of you right now, not like Christmas? Because I can understand why the 8 year old you said, you know what, let me not ask for anything for Christmas. But what I'm trying to figure out is why this 35-year-old version of you, who has a job, who can go get what he wants. If he wants something for Christmas, he can buy himself that. Why don't you like Christmas? And it was just like one of those things where when I kind of sat back, I had to sit back and really think about it. And when I thought about it, it was just like, wow, I have no reason at this point to not like Christmas, or to have the mentality or have the viewpoint of Christmas that I have. I have no reason to have it. So why? And it was just like I had to realize that I was just stuck in that place, from being 8 years old and wanting to help my mom. So it's just like, me taking a back seat to, try to help her out, take some of the stress off of her, and thinking about, trying to make the best Christmas, or the big Christmas, or the perfect Christmas for everybody, just trying to just take a little bit off of her. And it stuck with me. It stayed with me, So even now, when I'm in a place where I could buy, I'm not gonna say whatever I want, because but like I can buy a lot of things that I want. I have no problem buying those things, and I'm still in that place where I was when I was 8 years old. And it just hit me. It just really kind of struck me that I was still it amazed me. Like I'm still kind of mind blown about it, and we're in what, March now. So March, or when this comes out, it'll be April. So, just going back to it, it still amazes me when I think about it, like how something so small has such a huge and lasting impact on me, and how when it comes to certain things, we stay in those places of, hurt, or, in those painful places, in those places where, we had to become something or someone that we normally aren't, or that goes against who we are. You may be a loving, caring, joyous person, but when you're around people, they don't want to hear you laugh, they don't want to hear you having fun because they're miserable. So you just try to, temper down who you are, and you try to fit in, and you try to mold yourself to be a part of the group. And it's like we get so stuck in those places, especially as kids, and I know that there's plenty of people, who come from those single parent or low income, households, who will probably have similar stories to me. And I mind you, it's going to affect all of us different. Some people may have had a similar situation or experience that I had, and it's just like, because of that, now I over celebrate. I will overspend. I will make sure that my kids have the best Christmas, because I know what it was. I know what I felt like when I didn't have X, Y, Z. And so for me, it was just like, Christmas just became just another day, another. It just was not a big deal for me anymore, because I didn't want to. I didn't want to put that stress. So, and then that just became the go to year after year after year. So then, even when it got to the point where Christmas wasn't even about, I'm old. I'm older now, and like I got my own money and stuff. I still had that same mentality. Like, no, I don't want anything. You ain't got to buy me nothing. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. And it's just it just became a part of who I was. It became a part of like my identity. But I do remember uh Christmas, like some of them where we I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching all the cartoons and stuff leading up to Christmas. All My favorite one was The Year Without Santa Claus. I think that's the one with the Heat Miser. Like, Heat Miser was my favorite character. That's all I cared about. I didn't know the name of the movie for the longest time. I just knew Heat Miser. That's all I knew. Heat Heat Miser was like my dog. Like, that when Christmas rolled around and they was doing the 24 days to Christmas or whatever it was, man, Heat Miser, that's all I thought about. I didn't care about uh, the Grinch. I didn't care about Rudolph. None of that. All I wanted was the Year Without Santa. I think that was the name of the movie. All I know is the one with the Heat Miser in it. I love Heat Miser, still do to this day. Like, that's probably still one of my favorite. It probably is my favorite Christmas movie, even though I don't know the name of it. Well, my favorite Christmas character, how about that? For sure would be Heat Miser. But I say all that to say that there was a time when I thoroughly enjoyed Christmas. I enjoyed baking the cookies that we did a couple of times, and hanging the stockings and decorating the tree. Like, it was a big celebration. But I also remember when that switch was flipped, and it was no longer a celebration for me. It was just, me trying to make sure that, I was doing everything possible to relieve stress. I wasn't thinking about what I wanted. I wasn't thinking about what would make me happy, or what would I enjoy? What do I want to see under the tree? Now, mind you, that's not saying that I didn't get anything and I wasn't thankful for what I got. It was just to say I was doing my best not to, in what I thought at the time was be selfish and think about, oh, me, what I want. So that's what drove me. And so it just, Christmas just started to feel different. It wasn't about the cookies anymore, and putting the stuff out for Santa Claus, or even, the sitting together, me, my mom, and my brother, and just watching the Christmas movies and things like that. It wasn't even about any of that anymore. It was literally just about just trying to make sure that she was good, and that, you know, she was taken care of, because that was like, I don't know, just hearing her cry, or hearing her tell me that everything is all right when I know that it wasn't, like, it hurt me in a way that I couldn't explain at the time, which led to me deepening my frustration towards, my father, and the anger that I had for him. So I blamed him for a lot of things that that he didn't have anything to do with. So he just became more and more, like, every single year, every single time I heard her cry, he just became more and more the enemy in my mind. And that's what made it so much harder for me to try to reconcile with him as I got older, and I was able to, talk and, communicate, in a positive way. I could have had plenty of conversations and plenty of talks with him, but I hadn't dealt with any of my childhood stuff. So I still saw him as the enemy, and I saw him as the person who could do no right, and I saw my mom as the person who could do no wrong. And so one of the hardest things that I had to do in therapy was get to the point to where I realized that, okay, I had beef with my mom, or not beef, but I had anger towards my mom. I had things that I had to lay the blame at her feet. You know what I'm saying? So it felt weird even doing that. And so even in doing that, my therapist was like, look, I know when you came to therapy, I know you wanted it to be, it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault. You never thought that your mom was going to be one of the people that you have to put some blame and put some accountability on. But you got to go through it. We're at this bridge now. So now it's time to cross it. And so that was another thing that we talked about during the trip, was just like, I never thought the day would come when I would be laying any type of blame or accountability at her feet, and saying, you're a part of the reason why. And so even just saying it now, it feels weird. It feels so unfair, but at the same time, it doesn't feel unfair at all to sit here and blame my dad for stuff that he had nothing to do with. And so it's like, but that right there is why, for me, therapy is important, because I'm unfairly blaming him for things that he didn't do, or he didn't have any control over, maybe even didn't have anything to do with him. And on the other end, I'm not showing fair judgment or fair criticism on the other side when it comes to placing blame at my mom's feet, because she was there, because she sacrificed and all of that stuff. And it's like, I put so much weight on that it's like, it's to the point where I don't even want to blame her, or I feel guilty about blaming her for things. And it's like, I'm just so glad that she's also going through therapy, and she's so very understanding, because she's had to go through her own journey and get to the point she's had to cross her own bridge, where her mom, who was always there, she had to place some accountability and some blame at her mom's feet. And so she understands it. So she was able to hear it and receive it in a positive way. So I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, it's crazy. Therapy has me going through a lot of emotions, and, dealing with a lot of things, but I stay But yeah, that one, just talking about, just staying on subject, man, that one, it blew my mind because I never really thought about it. I never really, I mean, I knew why I didn't care about Christmas, but for some reason, it took her really putting it into perspective like that, and me realizing that I've just been stuck in that space where, as far as Christmas goes, I just revert back to my 8-year old mindset, and I just don't care for it, and I don't care to ask people for anything. And that's probably one of the reasons why I don't ask for anything for my birthday. I don't ask for anything when it comes to Christmas or anything like that. I'm very bad at asking for things. I'm very bad at asking for help. I'm very bad with um, just opening up about things that I go through. Now, obviously, I'm getting better with time. And as I deal with my issues and I deal with my trauma, it becomes easier to open up. Even doing the podcast, it just becomes very therapeutic to get on here and to talk about these things and to express how I feel. So it just makes things a lot easier. It makes communicating with people a lot easier. I've been hearing a lot that, it's easier to talk to me. It's easier to communicate with me. It's easier to tell me things about myself, that, it's easier for other people to come to me and just express themselves to me, because I'm not just snapping on everybody when they say something I don't like, or they're not, um, or just going off when things don't go my way, or just kind of shutting down just because things aren't going my way. I'm hearing everybody and I'm giving them a chance to express themselves and say what they need to say, and giving them space to understand. I'm giving grace to understand where they're coming from and why they're saying the things that they're saying. But yeah, it's definitely a journey, man. I don't think I can say, I don't think I can express enough how much I appreciate therapy, and, everything that therapy has done for me and is still doing for me. I can't express how thankful I am that my mindset has changed so much in a positive way towards so many people, my father included, but it just also shows me, therapy has also shown me that a lot of us, again, who come from where we come from where I come from, where money is tight, and you can't just do all the things that you want to do. You can't get all the things that you want to get. You can't you don't get the normal things, things that you don't even realize are normal. Like, um just something as simple as, how can I put this, man? Something as simple as just playing catch with your dad in the backyard or the front yard or something, right? Something that for some people don't even think about, because it's there. It's something that they have access to, that they had access to as a kid. Whereas for me, I don't even think about it, because it wasn't something to even, it wasn't even, I don't even know how to put it. It wasn't something, number one, that I thought that I would need, something that I thought was important, this time with your dad, you know what I'm saying? And it just goes to show you that we spend so much time in survival mode that we mistake surviving for living. We mistake trying to, like, paycheck to paycheck, that mentality for living. We mistake those things for living, because that's how we live. That's how our day to day is paycheck to paycheck and trying to scrap together this to pay for that and borrowing here to give here. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just the mentality. And we stay in that rat race because that's what we know. You know what I'm saying? And so just to start experiencing just to start experiencing more things and being more open to trying new things and more open to new experiences, it has shown me just how boxed in a lot of us are when we come from the hood and when we come from the projects, you know, and when we come from places like that. We become so boxed in with our mentality, you know, we become so rigid in, you know, what's acceptable and what's not, what's real and what's not. Like you start to realize once you get out the hood and once you get a taste of just everything else, even when you get out of the United States, you know, you start to see that your perception of what's real is warped because you have to realize that your reality isn't other people's reality. Your norm isn't other people's norms. What you consider maybe high end may be somebody's, what you may consider high class, like a high class, high value item, may be a mid level or a low class item or a low value item for someone else. And so, one thing that I've realized is that, you know, growing up where I grew up and how I grew up, it has affected my reality. And, you know, the things that I thought were normal aren't normal. The, you know, things that I thought were just everyday life that everybody went through, it's like, nah, you out here surviving, like while I'm out here living. And, you know, I remember it's funny now, but I remember being in like third grade, fourth grade. Uh, my mom put my brother and I in private school, and I remember going to one of one of the guys in my class going to his birthday party. And you know, they're in the house, they got a nice pool out back, and it's like I'm thinking to myself, like at that time, like because you know, just listening to them, right, when they talk about their lives and how they complain about things that I couldn't even fathom. You know what I'm saying? Like they're complaining about the pool, they're complaining about the new bikes that they get, they're complaining about, or not necessarily, well, yeah, because we kids, so you know, they just talk and mess about these things, and I'm just sitting back like, I don't know what it's like to go out in your backyard and you know, just have a pool there, or the new bike whenever you want the new bike, or things like that. And it's just, you know, it's one of them things where I look at that and I'm like, oh man, y'all are so lucky, y'all are so privileged. They look at it and it's like, nah, this is just everyday life for us. You know what I'm saying? This is everyday life. This is what, you know, what life looks like on a day-to-day basis for us. And for me, it's such a privilege. It's such, you know, to live in a home in this type of neighborhood and have, like I said, have the big pool with the diving board. It's like that's the dream as a kid. As a kid, you know, for me, like to have the pool and, you know, all of that, to be in those nice, well, I can't say it's the dream. I'll just say, because I didn't dream about that, so let me stop lying. But I'll say it felt good to go there, to be in those neighborhoods, to have that pool. It was like, man, you lucky. You know, you real lucky to have that. You know what I'm saying? So, but then when I left and went back home, I was glad to be home. You know, I was glad to be around the people that I grew up around. I was glad to be around the friends that I've known for years, because no, obviously none of them stayed anywhere near me. So, um, So yeah, it was just like I just lived in two different worlds. School was one world, and then I get back home, it was another. It was the world that I was used to. School was this new place for 2 years. Just being around a bunch of I don't know if they were rich, but what it felt like to me at the time, a bunch of rich white kids, who had the things, who took things for granted that we just didn't get, that I didn't see back home. We didn't have those things, so it was just like living in trying to operate in two different worlds. um but what I can say is, I personally, at that time, I didn't experience any racism from the kids. The teachers, that's another story, because looking back on it now, yeah, those teachers was on some BS. But I mean, for the most part, the students, no, I didn't really feel it. I didn't really get any racism from them. I actually got the opposite. They were always just trying to be around me, trying to soak up any type of like language or energy, whatever that I was giving off. They were just soaking it all in. So it's more admiration than it was racism. So I didn't really feel that from the students, but from the teachers, it was like, yeah, you could feel, you knew it was something, because mind you, in my class, I think it was just me and one black girl. So that was it. So it was just two black students. The rest were white. So I won't speak for her, but I know for me, you definitely felt the energy was different when it came, especially when it came to getting in trouble. Like, the energy was different. It was always, oh, I understand, or oh, it's okay, it's gonna be okay with everybody else. But then when it came to me, it just didn't feel that way. Now I could be wrong, right? But it just felt that way. The energy just felt off when it came to the teachers, not the students. But man, I went on a tangent. But yeah, man, I can't stress enough, right? I promise you, I cannot stress enough how much I recommend therapy for I can't stress enough how much I recommend going to therapy, and just getting therapy for anything and everything. I don't think that therapy is just for a certain type of people, or for a certain type of mental illness, whatever. I think that therapy is just for any and everybody, because we've all gone through stuff. I don't care where you come from. I don't care how nice or how bad your childhood was, how privileged you were, or whatever the case may be. I feel like therapy is for everybody. Everybody can get something from therapy. There's something for everybody. There's something for everybody to get from therapy, if you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to, go and do the work and do what needs to be done, and you take it seriously. I think that's another important thing, is that you got to be willing to take therapy seriously, because it's very important to do the work, to engage with the therapist, take it take it seriously. I mean, for me, as someone, I was the person seeking therapy. I wanted therapy, so I don't know. I don't have the mindset of going in there just to waste my time, their time. I don't know, but if you're serious about therapy, if you're, or at least if you're at the very least, if you're open to therapy, I would recommend therapy to everybody. Um, because I know somebody asked me like, would I recommend that for like a kid? I honestly don't know. I don't want to sit here and act like I'm an expert on anything, but as far as adults go, for sure, I would recommend that for every single adult, because I know you live long enough, you've been through something traumatic, and you've probably held on to some piece of that trauma, and it's probably, affected you in some type of way, in some form or fashion in your life. And so I know it shows up in some way in your life. But yeah, I would recommend therapy to any adult, if you're going to take it seriously, if you're interested, if you're open minded enough to try therapy, I would recommend it. Now, to somebody who just think therapy don't work, think that they can do it on their own, they think that, you don't need therapy, then hey, I wouldn't tell you to waste your time or theirs. But if you're open to it, man, therapy, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that therapy has saved my life. Therapy has given me a new life. Let's say that. It's given me a new perspective on life, and it's given me new energy when it comes to how I want to live my life in the direction that I want to go in with my life. So therapy has done just in these short, what I want to say like 8 months. I don't know how long it's been since I started doing therapy, but it's done a lot for me. And I can't thank my therapist enough. And I can't thank the people around me who pushed me and held me accountable and, and herded me towards therapy. I can't thank them enough because therapy was probably the best decision that I've ever made in my life, hands down. It's probably, and I don't think there may even be a close number two. Therapy has just been very good for me, very eye opening for me. But again, therapy has shown me how easy it is to get stuck in those hurt places, how easy it is to get stuck in that place of that 8-year old, that 12-year old, that 15, 18-year old, whatever it may be, where you felt that hurt, where you felt that pain. It's so easy to get caught up in that and get stuck in those places. But we got to let those things go. Well, we got to work through them. I don't want to keep saying let stuff go because it's not as simple as letting it go. You got to work through it, whatever it may be, whatever it is that's bothering you. You got to work through it because that's what's going to get you to where you want to be, is the work, getting through it, working through all of those emotions and everything that comes with it to get to the other side of whatever that situation is, to get to where you want to be. So I'm going to quit saying let it go and start saying work through it, because that's more important, is to get the work done to get through it. But I want to thank everybody for listening on whatever platforms you're listening to the podcast. And I want to thank everybody watching on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I hope that y'all have a blessed day.